Raise your hand if you've ever experienced intense emotions. Raise your other hand if you've ever had a difficult time processing those emotions. The truth is, when it comes to emotional navigation, it can be really, really difficult. Maybe you have a difficult time processing anger or rage. Maybe you have a difficult time processing grief or sadness. Whatever emotion it is, just take a breath and know that you are not alone. We don't exactly live in a world where we're taught how to manage our emotions, but rather we are told and taught and demonstrated as to what emotions are acceptable, what forms of anger are okay and which ones are not. And for that, I'm so sorry. But today, for day 2 of my 7-day live series to raise BPD awareness and empowerment, I'm going to be sharing 3 tools for managing emotions, especially those really intense ones. Because even though we all experience intense emotions that might be difficult to process, people with borderline personality disorder, also known as BPD, can have a really difficult time in that space of intense emotions. See, people with BPD have a daily struggle of having these emotional experiences, having the dysregulation that can come from experiencing intense emotions combined with a lot of other behavioral things and chemicals just being released into the brain. But don't worry, whether you have BPD or not, I'm going to be sharing these 3 powerful tools with you, plus my bonus tip at the end as to really what's helped me navigate my emotions. Because I was diagnosed in 2014 with BPD, but I'm really excited and honored to say that I've been without symptoms for the last 5 years. For anybody who's watching this with BPD, just know that healing is possible. And yesterday I busted the myth that there's no effective treatment, because there is, and just finding one that works for you. And I'm here to hopefully offer some hope and inspiration, because I know for me, when I was diagnosed, finding that hope and inspiration was really difficult. But I'm here to be a part of the movement that's breaking down the stigma and raising awareness while fostering healing. So, that being said, who is ready to get some tools for emotional regulation? Hey, Kevin. Okay, so first off, there are so many benefits to emotional regulation. Think right now, how would you feel if, when big emotions came up for you, you felt in control of them? You felt like you could hear the messages and wisdom of your emotions as opposed to having them take over your body. How different would your relationships look? Would you maybe lash out less at your partner? Would you be able to navigate resentment, shame, or guilt in maybe a healthier way? Think about it for a second, because I know that it's really easy to connect to that feeling of what it's like to lose ourselves to an emotion. Because again, when our emotions, especially certain ones like grief, anger, get processed in the body, our nervous system can respond from a place of survival. Which is why if you've ever told yourself, I am not going to do that again, and then the moment comes up and you're like, oh, shiitake, I did it again. It's okay. It's normal. It's a very normal response for the nervous system. I know it's easy to connect to that, but think about it. Go ahead. If you got a pen and paper, write it down or let me know in the comments. What area of your life do you think would be most improved if you could regulate your emotions and hear their wisdom as opposed to having them drive the driver's seat? And by that, I mean your body and mind. For me, anger was really difficult to process, and explosive anger tends to be something that comes up a lot of times for people with BPD. See, we live in a world where anger is kind of judged and stigmatized. Oh my goodness, they're angry. Everybody must be scared. There's nothing wrong with the emotion of anger, but rather the judgment and stigma that can come from certain behaviors associated with anger, like lashing out, yelling, throwing things, whatever it is. But anger is so powerful. Each one of the emotions that we experience come with wisdom and messages. Did you know that anger shows up in the body for 2 reasons? One, a boundary is being violated. Whether you know what that boundary is or not, doesn't matter, because your body does. And the second reason that anger shows up is because you're not feeling seen or heard. If you can hear the messages and the wisdom of your emotions like anger, it can really bring in some more power and choice in how you choose to respond when that emotion shows up. So, some benefits of being emotionally regulated, besides knowing what the wisdom and message is of that emotion, is better relationships. Whether it's at work with your boss or your colleagues, at home with your family, or on a date with a partner. Being able to have that emotional regulation can really come in handy when trying to maintain healthy relationships. It's also going to be really great for your physical being because if you're able to not be in a constant state of stress or emotion or tension, your body is going to respond very differently as well. Everybody, go ahead and take a really big breath with me and hold it for a few seconds. 3, 2, 1, and let it out. How did that exhale feel for you? When we can stay in a place of emotional regulation, that's what life in your body can feel like. That state of constant exhale, that state of relief, as opposed to being into a state of tension and stress. In general, being able to regulate your emotions is really going to improve your overall mental well-being. And so, that being said, it is time to get some powerful transformative tools with Des. That's me. By the way, everybody, I'm Des Caminos, and I'm an embodiment coach and somatic practitioner. I'm really excited to be sharing these tools and resources with you today because the truth was, it wasn't always like this. Like I said, in 2014, I was diagnosed with BPD, and I really struggled with my emotions. I was explosive, I was erratic, I tended to have really big episodes of ups and downs. It felt like I was walking on eggshells all the time, but the truth was, it wasn't just walking on eggshells with other people. It was walking on eggshells with myself. It felt like I was scared to be alone because I didn't trust my thoughts or my emotions. It was a really difficult time for me to be there. But one day I was living in Czech Republic and I was just laying on a theater floor, honestly, in a drunken stupor because how do you process your emotions when you don't know how to handle them? A lot of times we tend to escape, and I tended to escape in alcohol. And so one day in a drunken stupor, trying to escape the reality of the intense emotions that I experienced, covered in stale beer and popcorn, I realized I had to change my story to change my life. I had tried different types of therapy and treatment before, but the truth was I always reached therapy because I was doing it for someone else. Because I wanted to stay with the person that I was with. Because my partner said, you need to go to therapy or else this isn't going to work. I was driven to therapy for other people and never for myself until that day on that drunken stupor floor covered in shame and guilt along with lots of beer and popcorn. I realized that I had to get my emotions under control because I asked myself, is this going to be my life? It was really difficult to have that turning point, but I did. For the first time in a really long time, I woke up and I chose myself. And day by day, week by week, I pulled myself off of that dirty theater floor and I slowly started to rise above my emotions, learning how to live a life where I'm working with them as opposed to trying to dismiss them, judge them, or silence them. So I want to just give you a little backstory as to who I am. And then I went on after that. Once I was really able to live a life without medication and without episodes or symptoms, I expanded my education from my college degrees into additional trainings in dialectical behavioral therapy, somatics, trauma, and inner child work. And the cool thing is today, one of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you is I'm going to be diving into dialectical behavioral therapy, also known as DBT. So if any of you guys can relate to my story, go ahead and drop a little heart emoji in the chat, and I'd love to just kind of be in this space with you. That aside, it's time to regulate some emotions, especially the intense ones. The very first thing that I want to share with you in terms of a powerful tool that you can use to process and navigate those intense emotions is mindfulness. I'll be honest, when I first heard of mindfulness, I was like, this is so dumb, and I'm feeling so much resistance to this. So if you're feeling that, just take a breath and know that you are not alone. But mindfulness can be so powerful because when we are experiencing those intense emotions, our brain is going to be going a mile a minute. That's why it can feel really times as if your brain is just in this spiral, thinking all the different thoughts, coming up with evidence, thinking about all of the different times that you felt this way before, justifying why you should feel this way before. Next thing you know, you're talking 1,000 miles per minute. Whew. Being able to focus and be mindful on one thing at hand is going to regulate your nervous system. It's going to bring you out of the analytical mind and it's going to bring you into the experience, and not necessarily the experience of the emotion and the physiological sensations that are coming as a result of it, but it's also really going to kind of bring you back into one area of focus, which is so powerful because when we get triggered and we go into that state of trigger or survival, our rational thinking kind of gets inhibited. That part of our brain's like, oh, I can't think with all of this loud noise. And so what it does is that rational thinking kind of shuts down. And being able to focus on one thing, which is part of that area of the brain, is going to reactivate it. So by focusing with intention, you're really going to start to turn on that part of your brain that has started to shut down, that's in charge of focusing and rational thought and thinking. And think about it. How different would your anger look, or your grief look, or your sadness look, or heck, even your excitement, if you could just stay in a place of rational thought and thinking? A great way to be mindful is just to explore the senses. So, if you're in the middle of an episode or feeling anger, feeling an intense emotion, it can be difficult to focus on anything else. But try and focus on senses. What is it? Can you rub your hands? What do your fingers feel like? What does the back of your hand feel like? What do your thumbs feel like? Your palms. Engage the senses. What smells can you hear around you? What is the loudest, farthest sound that you can hear right now? What's the taste that's in your mouth? If you're feeling angry, what does that taste like? Really coming into your senses can be a beautiful, powerful way to connect. Another great thing is just to focus on your breathing. For me, when I would find myself going into high levels of anxiety, one thing that I would always do is I would try and find 10 orange things around me. Why orange? Because there's just not a lot of orange things in the world, unless you're in Holland, in which case there's probably a lot of orange things. But really being able to try and find something that's going to bring in your focus is so powerful. So that's the first tool. Also, secret, I'm going to be sharing my bonus tip at the end, so make sure that you stay with me. Mindfulness is the first transformative tool that I want to share with you on how to regulate your intense emotions, but I'm going to be honest, it's going to be hard, and that's okay. Being able to practice your mindfulness techniques before you go into that overwhelm or that state of intensity is going to start building up that muscle memory a little bit. So that way, in that moment, when you do get triggered or go into that space of intense emotion, your brain will already know what to do. It'll have that experience. It's also a great way to build inner trust. So, mindfulness number one. The second thing that I want to share with you is dialectical behavioral therapy, also known as DBT. This was created by Marshall Linehan, and although it was originally created for people with eating disorders, it was created with people with borderline personality disorder in mind. However, when this treatment was created, BPD wasn't really recognized by the American Psychological Association or in the DSM, which is why it was really kind of given in those clinical studies for people who were struggling with eating disorders. Now it has been used worldwide to kind of combat and work with a lot of different mental health disorders, such as BPD, eating disorders, addiction as well. Because what dialectical behavioral therapy, or DBT, is really good for is changing unwanted behaviors or patterns. Really being able to find a way to navigate those triggers and that sense of self, so that when you are in that place of wanting to escape or process whatever it is you're feeling, you've got some healthy tools. DBT is based off of 4 main components. First one is going to be mindfulness, which is why I just want to reiterate the importance of that. Another one that it talks about is emotional regulation. And so there are a lot of different tools that DBT is going to bring in there to process kind of emotions. The third one that I want to share with you for DBT is distress tolerance. Distress tolerance. And I'm actually going to be sharing one of my favorite distress tolerance techniques from DBT with you. But the fourth kind of component of DBT is interpersonal relationships. Now, these 4 things are really going to make managing intense emotions extremely powerful. Again, that's mindfulness, emotional regulation, distress tolerance techniques, and interpersonal relations. And the reason that those 4 are so powerful is because mindfulness, again, is going to bring us back into the experience. Having tools to regulate our emotions, to understand when we're emotionally vulnerable. And what I mean by that is when our cup's not full. When our cup is not full, we're a little emotionally vulnerable. Things that can kind of empty our cup out are stress, not getting a good night's sleep, diets, hormones. There's a lot that can go into that. But being able to stay present in the moment while knowing how full your cup is and having tools to fill your cup back up in emotional regulation is so important. Distress tolerance is really going to be talking about how you can, in that moment of distress, find ways to tolerate that experience. And one of the favorite things that I learned in my journey of DBT, both as a client as well as learning the styles to become a practitioner, was being able to have something cold nearby. For myself, this was really powerful because I was really starting to struggle with high anxiety and having panic attacks. And so, if you are going to be doing something that you know might be causing you some stress, like maybe having a moment, a conversation with a partner or a loved one that might lead to conflict, or maybe doing your taxes, or if you're just at home and you're living with someone that you trust who's earned the right to know a little bit more of your vulnerable state, you can say, hey, if I'm feeling this level of intensity, if I notice that my breathing is starting to become shallow, I'm aware of the physiological sensations that are happening in my body. Can you do this for me? And this is just having something frozen and being able to put it on your forehead. And the reason is because when we get triggered, when we go into that state of survival, all of the blood is going to be rushing to our head, which is why you might feel like you're a hothead when you're feeling really anger, feeling a lot of those emotions, kind of that fogginess that comes in the brain. Now, if you can put something frozen on your forehead, it actually tricks the brain into thinking that you're freezing to death. But you know that you're not freezing to death, that you've just got French fries on your head, cold French fries. And what it's going to do is going to start to recirculate the blood. And so it's going to kind of start to recirculate that blood. So it's going to be coming a little bit out of your head, a little away from that frontal lobe that's causing a lot of that panic, and back into other vital organs of the body. Now, I know that it might be really difficult to engage in this technique, to have something frozen, to put it on your head in that moment of anxiety or distress or high intense emotion. But even having something ice cold as preparation for that moment can be extremely powerful, because again, it's going to do a very similar thing of trying to regulate the nervous system into that space. And so that is one of my favorite techniques from distress tolerance, which is again part of dialectical behavioral therapy. And the fourth component of DBT that I do want to touch on is interpersonal relationships. Because the truth is, being human is hard, let alone being human with someone else or other people. Really being able to have powerful communication skills to talk about your boundaries, your wants, your needs in a way that is safe for you is extremely important. Because like I said, being human is hard, and when we're in relation to others, we can be a little bit more reactive. More of our vulnerabilities can come out, whether it's an intense fear of abandonment, which is a really big thing for people who struggle with BBD, but being able to kind of process that can be extremely powerful, because whether you've got borderline personality disorder or not, those fears of abandonment, those fears of being unwanted, of being unseen, can really trigger a lot of those responses. Again, anger shows up in the body when a boundary is being violated, or when we're not feeling seen or heard. So really having those interpersonal skills of how to effectively communicate yourself can really help minimize that intense emotion of anger and showing up. And again, when it shows up, having these powerful tools of distress tolerance, emotional regulation, and mindfulness can be extremely powerful to ground you back into your authenticity, ground you back into your experience, ground you back into the reality that is, as opposed to the reality that is coming from that place of fear and trigger and survival response. So I know that was only tip 2, but DBT, I really wanted to share that with you. And so that's a brief overview. Join me later this week, because I'll be diving a lot more into dialectical behavioral therapy and just the power of it. Now, the third tool that I want to share with you for managing intense emotions, the first one, just to recap, was mindfulness. The second one was dialectical behavioral therapy. And the third one is self-care and soothing techniques. I know that can sound really annoying for some people. For myself, I remember when I learned of self-care soothing, I was like slightly offended, because I was like, I'm a woman, I don't need self-care soothing techniques. But the truth is, we all need those techniques. Learning how to self-soothe is just another great way of saying how to regulate your nervous system. Take a moment and think right now. What are some ways that you soothe yourself when you're upset? And if you don't have any idea, that's okay too. You're here watching this video for a reason. Some ways that my clients in the past have self-soothed were listening to music, giving themselves a massage, taking a hot shower or cold shower, or taking a bath, engaging in sensory activities like a stuffed animal or holding a soft blanket, finding something that's going to be really sensationally activating has been really great ways for my clients to soothe, as well as listening to music or dancing. Finding what works for you is going to be so important. I wish that I could say, like, here, like, do this as a self-soothing technique, but the truth is, your version of self-soothing and self-care is going to be different than mine. And I say this because it's true. It's not always a one-size-fits-all. When you think of self-care or self-soothing, one image that came to mind for me in the very beginning was just this kind of like, bear hug, hugging yourself and rubbing yourself. But for me, in my journey of navigating borderline personality disorder and overcoming my trauma, this was not safe for me. This did not make me feel like I was soothing myself or it was an act of self-love or self-care. This was a big trigger for me. I felt caged, I felt confined, which is why I really want to invite you to explore self-care soothing techniques that are unique to you. What did you like as a child when you were younger? If you had to soothe or self-care a friend, what would you offer them? A hot cup of tea? Maybe swaddling yourself in a heavy blanket? Going outside and just taking a breath of fresh air? Let me know in the comments, what are some ways that you self-soothe or self-care? And I know that dropping stuff in the comments can be a little nerve-wracking, but if you have a practice, please share it, because again, we are all in this together. You never know who might be inspired or find hope in one of your techniques. So I really encourage you and invite you to share any of your soothing techniques that might be popping up. And if you'd like some more one-on-one support, book a Breakthrough to Trust call with me. There's a link in my bio, and I'll get to know you, your story, and really kind of lay out a mini plan for you on how to cope with these triggers or intense emotions in a way that's safe and sustainable. Because I know that it's really difficult to find sustainable techniques when we're navigating intense emotions for a variety of reasons. That's a separate thing. But those are the 3 tools that I want to share with you. And now it's time for my bonus tip. Don't know where that voice came from, but I want to share my bonus tip with you on how I process my emotions. Because the truth is, like I said, I really struggled with intense emotions. What I do personally is I talk to them. I talk to my emotions. Am I asking you to speak with yourself? Abso-speaking-lutely. Being able to talk to your emotions can be so powerful, because what it's going to do, it's going to offer a detachment, and not in the same way of like disassociation or numbing yourself or escaping from reality, but it's going to be able to bring in a fresh perspective, as opposed to having anger or fear take over. And now I'm angry, I'm fear. Now you're moving it more into an experience. Like I said, anger comes with messages of not feeling seen or heard or having a boundary violated. There are so many other messages that can come from anger, especially around certain experiences, or from fear. One thing that I do with my clients is I have them visualize this exercise, visualize their emotion. And I do this through a deeper somatic exercise. So if anybody's interested in that, just drop a "I'm interested" in the comments and I'll reach out to you. But really being able to go through this exercise of visualizing, what does that emotion look like? What does your fear look like? What does your stress, your anxiety look like? What does your grief look like? Being able to have the separation of self can be so powerful, because you're able to have a conversation with it. Hey, fear, like I noticed that you've been really overwhelmed today. I noticed that you've been really scared. What are you scared of? How can I help? What can I do to support you? I understand. Being able to hold conversations and hold that space for your emotions is so powerful. Because when we dismiss our emotions, when we silence them, when we try and pretend and brush them under the rug, shove them into the closet, over time, that closet is going to start shaking. It's going to be full of so many emotions, so many times that we've dismissed ourselves, that eventually that is just going to pop open at the smallest breeze of wind, at the smallest idea, at the smallest thought. And that's a lot of emotions to be coming out, which is why it might come off as explosive sometimes. Being able to have that safe space of processing your emotions is extremely powerful, because you're not putting things in here to shake and overwhelm and pour out eventually. Also, you deserve to be seen and heard, even if it's just you hearing and holding that space for yourself. And so do your emotions. Your emotions are part of you. And I know that can be really annoying, especially if you struggle with intense emotions. But think about it. How do you feel when you're dismissed or judged? How do you feel in that moment? Do you feel safe? If someone's saying, "Hey, no, I don't want to hear that story. Be quiet, be quiet, be quiet." Think about kids. What do? Do they stay quiet, or do they shout even louder? Do they come back with more frustration, more annoyance, more comebacks? Your emotions are going to be really similar. The more that you try and dismiss, repress them, the louder that they're going to come back. Which is why having these 3 tools for managing your emotions, intense emotions, is going to be so powerful, especially if you can couple it with my personal favorite, again, talking to those emotions. Also, I invite you to try and not judge your emotions in that space. I know it can be really easy because those emotions can be annoying and overwhelming, plus a few other words. But how do you feel when you're judged? Do you feel safe? When we judge our emotions, that same level of lack of safety is going to pop up. And again, especially if we are holding those emotions as a part of us and who we are as our sense of self, judging our emotions is going to be kind of like judging ourselves. So you're going to be kicking off that survival instinct because no one wants to be judged. We don't feel safe in being judged. So by judging ourselves, we're kicking off that survival instinct. And again, it's going to be changing the chemicals that are being released into our brain as well as our physiological response. Just know that there's no judgment in healing. But if you find yourself judging, that's okay too. Give yourself grace as you navigate intense emotions because everything you think and feel is for a reason. And again, we don't live in a world where we're taught how to navigate and process our emotions, let alone intense ones. So, as you're starting this journey of managing your intense emotions and learning how to process those feelings and regulate yourself, it's going to be a journey. And finding that compassion and that grace and that wiggle room is so important. You're not going to be able to wake up tomorrow and have everything figured out because also that's not how the body works. It's a beautiful journey. We can't rewire the brain overnight and we can't rewire and re-regulate the nervous system overnight. The body is a beautiful detailed map of the subconscious mind, so it's going to take time while it heals. It has to be healed in a safe way. And sometimes that safety, that process, can be as a little slower than you might want, especially for my perfectionists or overachievers out there. But I promise it's a journey that you deserve. So thank you everybody so much for being here with me today. It really has been such a treat to share these tools and resources with you. Just to recap, the 3 tools that we talked about for today was number 1, mindfulness. Number 2, dialectical behavioral therapy and the 4 aspects of it. And the third one was self-care soothing techniques. And again, my personal favorite is talking to your emotions. So if you've got any questions, just know that I'm here as a resource. I've got your back always. I'm going to be going live tomorrow for day 3 of the 7-day live series to raise BPD awareness as well as share some empowering tools. And this is all leading up to my May 1st event. May 1st is BPD Awareness Day. And whether you have BPD or not, there's so many qualities that so many of us can benefit from just having these tools like emotional regulation. That event is going to be 2 p.m. on Monday, May 1st. And the title is Beyond the Diagnosis. I'm going to share with you 3 tools on how to discover safety, stability, and fulfillment. And again, that is May 1st. There's a link in my bio, and I'll put one in the comments. And for everybody who is here in the 7-day series, thank you so much for being with me. And I'm excited to see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, maybe 10:03, 10:05, technology, at tomorrow. And if you've got any questions, let me know. I'm here for you, always. And just remember, together we radiate, together we rise. Bye everybody's awkward time where I get off live and getting live on Facebook.